and welcome to this week's episode of Powerful Testimonies. I'm excited for my guest today. Her name is Anna. She's actually one of my oldest friends. We've known each other since we were 5 years old, so we went to primary school together. I can't wait for you to hear her testimony because part of it I know. So I can honestly tell you that growing up, she was the smartest girl in class. This girl was number one everything. And to add to that, she could play tennis. So she was like an all-rounder. She was, she is smart. She's very smart. I only have smart friends. She's very smart. So let me not stop this. Anna, handing over to you. Tell us your testimony.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So Kim asked me to do this last week, and I was first a little bit hesitant. And she actually encouraged me because she was like, oh my gosh, when you tell me stuff about your life, it amazes me. And, I took like a look back and I was like, yes, I have a lot of stuff that I am so grateful for. So then I was struggling with which one do I tell you? So I actually prayed about it and I spoke to my friend at work about it. And the message that kept coming to me was, God has a plan for you. God has a plan for you. And like my morning devotional, I kept on hearing things about God has a plan for you, Jeremiah, God has a plan for you. So that was what I decided to share with everyone today. So ever since I was 5, my parents can attest to this, everyone in my family, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a pediatric doctor, to be specific. So I spent every part of my life working towards that plan. So primary school, I studied, not as hard as my mom thought I was, but I studied. High school, I studied. A-levels, I did sciences because doctors do sciences. So I did maths, physics, bio, and chemistry. I got into a Canadian university. My major was biochemistry because everyone who's doing med school does biochemistry. So I did that. I did everything I could. I got good grades. And then it came to time to, okay, now we need to apply for med school. So I went to school, and international students, they only took 2 students at that school. So I said, okay, maybe not that school. We'll try something else. Then I wrote my MCATs, which hardest exam I've ever written. Like I wanted to cry straight afterwards.
What's MCAT?
It is the medical like acceptance. Can't remember what the words mean. For you to get into a med school, you have to write MCATs to show that you can qualify for it, right? So I wrote them and I did okay. I didn't do great, but I did okay. So then I started deciding, where am I going to go to school? I moved to Toronto, and in the meantime, I was a student first. So I needed to transition to like a permanent resident to be able to go to school and work. So that was the plan. I'm going to go to school, I'm going to work, paying off my school. So I had a work permit. My work permit was only 3 years. The first 2 years I was working the worst job. I don't know if anyone else has done this, cold calling, where you call people and you try to sell cell phones.
We've all done that. We all started there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is one of the hardest jobs. You get yelled at every single day. You get screamed at.
Next time you hang up on air duct cleaning.
I'm so nice to them for that very reason, because I know they are just trying to pay bills.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and like I had my little apartment. I had like this life. It was okay, but I wasn't happy. I was stressed because I was trying to figure out I needed to get a job in my field in order to get permanent residency. So I had looked everywhere. Everyone's like, you've got work experience in customer service. You have work experience in this. And I just couldn't get a job in my field. So I got tired. And I remember talking to my parents, and my mom was like, come home for a break. Just come home. And I was like, okay. So I packed my stuff. I gave away my phone because in my mind, I had said, maybe I need to go home and start from there.
By home, she means back to Africa. So she's decided she's been trying to do this
Canada life.
Canada life. It's just difficult, and she doesn't want to do cold calling. So she's going back to Africa now. Okay.
So yeah, I quit my job, packed my stuff, sold everything, and I was like, I'm gonna start again. I'm gonna start at home. I had met a couple of months before that, I had met a lady who had just moved to Canada from the UK, and she worked in a cosmetic company. And she had like, I just moved here. I helped her around and stuff like that. And I said, okay, but I'm going home in December. I don't know if I'm gonna come back. And she was like, I would really love it if you come back. But I was like, I honestly don't know if I'm gonna come back. So I went home for a month, and then I was still outside Canada. And then she called me.
This lady you had just met before you left?
Yes, she called me and she said, I know you had said you don't want to come back unless you have a reason. Our company's hiring, and I talked to my boss about it, and he's willing to hire you. It would just be a lab job, but it's something. So I was like, okay, coming back for a lab job. But I was like, you know what? A job is a job. Okay.
And you wanted science?
Yeah, I wanted science. So then she's like, my boss is going to call you. He's going to do an interview over the phone, and he'll let you know if you get the job or not. So I did this interview, and I spoke to him, I believe, for like 20 minutes. It was a very short interview. He was a really great man. And he's like, you're hired. If you can get back to Canada on Monday, you can start.
Amen. She did her interview from Africa when something is yours. Anyway. Yeah.
So then I flew back and I started my job. So as it was cosmetics, I have no history in cosmetics. I don't even wear makeup. Well, until I started working here. And it
I
was
got a lot of makeup from that job. I have to say, thank you.
right.
You. Anyway, go on.
So I had found this new thing where I was like, okay, I'm going to work for a little bit, get my permanent residency. And then I had heard about Caribbean mid school. So I was like, I'm going to apply to a Caribbean mid school, and I'm going to go there. I'm going to pay by the money I used to save. So I was excited. We're back on track. We're going to go back to mid school. I even told my boss when we started, I was like, I'm only going to be here for 9 months. I'm going to mid school. I don't know if he still remembers this, but I told him I'm only here for 9 months. I'm saving money to go to med school. I got into a med school, and I paid $500 to hold this position. And then, so I'm working.
Wait, in case you forgot, my friend was smart. She got into med school. Anyway, carry on.
So I was working, and I asked the university, can I get a scholarship? They said no. I asked, can I do financing? They said no. And then I was like, okay, so we are not going to Caribbean school now. What are we going to do? So then I looked into South African universities. They're cheaper. If I make Canadian dollars, save up, I can pay for it. I applied to a university called WITS. And so I basically had to do every test there. But I managed to convince them to send every single test I needed to do in South Africa. They sent it to Canada, and I wrote it in Canada, except one. I had one test left, and I begged them to send it. And they said, no, you have to write it in South Africa.
You felt like you were fighting against the current all the time.
Yes. I actually said, you know what? God is trying to tell me something. I made it into med school. I did my MCAT. He's saying, I'm not saying you can't do this, but maybe this is not for you. And I said, okay, I think I need to stop and reassess. So I sat down, I prayed, and I was like, okay, God, I am going to listen to you. You have decided that you have something you want to show me. I'm going to listen. I actually wrote a text message to my parents. I don't know if they still have it. And sorry.
That's okay.
And I told them that they hadn't failed me, and that I felt like this dream was done, and that there is something else that I'm meant to do, and I'm going to do it. And I wanted them to know that they had done everything they could to make my dreams come true. And I know that they had done everything, and I was grateful. But but I think God has a different plan for me. My dad actually called me and said, "Is everything okay?" Because he was worried. And I said, "No, everything is fine." But everything has just been so hard. And I think it's time I change my plan. And I was like, okay. So then after that, I was like, okay, fine, God, I am going to do whatever you want me to do. And I'm going to do the best in everything I do. So I worked hard at my cosmetic company. My bosses will tell you, I became an expert. I went from working into the lab to actually formulating. I have never formulated in my life. I worked long days. I was tired. It was a messy job, but I worked hard. And then just when I thought nothing could go wrong, I applied for my permanent residency. I had literally 1 month left, and they denied me. And I remember crying with my friends saying, I have to go home because I can no longer stay here. And then I won't say her name, but she's like a mother to me. And she was like, you need to tell our boss because maybe he can do something. So I went and I spoke to my boss, and I cried in his office. And he's not the sweetest man. Like, he is a tough man. But I could see that he was hurt for me. And he said, what do you need? And I said, I don't know. And he's like, you are a blessing to us. We will do what we can to keep you. I'm going to arrange an appointment with a lawyer, and we will figure this out. And the favor I got was ridiculous. We went to see a lawyer. A lawyer said, you can sponsor her work permit. And the normal process for sponsoring a work permit is you need a positive LMI, you need to post for 3 months, you need to prove there's no one else in Canada, all these things. And there was a clause that said if the person had worked for you already, they don't have to go through that. You can sponsor their work permit immediately. So he did that. He paid for the lawyer fees. And I think before my work permit actually expired, I had another work permit, and it was sponsored by them. So I could stay in the country. He makes this joke about how he says, now you can't leave us. So that's why I did it. But I know he's a good man, and he did it because he knew I needed help.
Because
God sent me so many angels. And this was like, I think year 1 or year 2, like my first year working there, all this stuff happened. And I ended up staying with them for 9 years. And I met so many people who have been blessings in my life. They've been like family. I had no one. They've been family. Kim has met a lot of my friends and she will tell you, they are like my family. At just working for them, I've been able to go to school. I have paid for that in full and not owed. I have been able to bring my brother and his family and covered the costs of that. I've been able to bring my parents, and I've been able to buy my first house, and I've been able to buy my first car.
Yeah.
And all these things happened because I decided to listen to God and to stop trying to plan my life. because I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to have a comfortable life, to take care of people, to be able to take care of my parents, my family, everyone. But he showed me that you can still do this with the plan I have for you.
Amen.
And my life, my plan, or what God has in my life is very different. And through just following him, I've been able to do so many things. And so many, like all the things that I've gone through, someone has come and said, hey, I'm going through this. And I'm like, funny enough, I know what you need to do because I've gone through it. I've had people ask me about the work permits, moving to Canada, struggling with getting a job, all these things. And I'm like, I know where you've been. If you need to talk, just talk to me.
Thank you for teaching us about sometimes being still and knowing that God is in control, not you, and paying attention. Sometimes if you feel like you keep fighting against the current, maybe it's best to just wait
Back.
and step back in prayer and wait for direction. And it does come. Pay attention to the people that God is sending into your life. Look at what happened to you. All those people that were there at the right time. You needed to have that job so that when you needed the work permit, you were in that job already. And then everything just the way as it should be. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Anna and I are going to log off and say a quick prayer. It looks like we both need it right now. Emotional session for us. Thank you so much for watching. May you be blessed. May you wait for God's plan, and may you find and see his direction. If you would like to be a guest on this show and share your story of how God has worked in your life, someone is waiting to hear it. Give me a call or leave a message. Have a blessed day. Thank you.